Yes, this is a ridiculously overpriced novelty cup for Sonic 3 that I got from the cinema. But let's not talk about how much money I spend on stupid things like this. Let's talk about the actual movie.
Sonic, you finally found your family.
Try to keep up.
Picking up fairly soon after the events of Sonic 2, or immediately after the events of Sonic 2 if you count the post-credits scene, Sonic 3 sees new bad guy introduced in the name of Shadow, voiced by effortlessly cool Keanu Reeves. Shadow teams up with not one, but two Jim Carrey performed Dr. Robotniks. Won't say more on that because I'm not sure how much was revealed in the trailer. But yeah, there's two Jim Carreys and as two different generations of evil Dr. Robotnik, shall we say. So Sonic, voiced by Ben Schwartz once again, Tails, voiced by Colleen O'Shaughnessy once again, and once again, Knuckles, voiced by Idris Elba, have to go and do a thing and see a place and collect a key to stop the bad guys from getting the MacGuffin that will end up destroying the whole world. Plot-wise, that's more or less it. I'm not going to go too much into that. It's, it's a kids' movie. It's not a plot-heavy movie. But is it any good? The whole voice cast is great. Ben Schwartz as Sonic, again, kind of walks a very, very fine line, successfully walks a fine line between annoying and lovable. Kind of like he does as Jean-Ralphio in Parks and Rec.
Even though honestly she is the worst.
Keanu Reeves as Shadow is, as I said earlier on, effortlessly cool. I think his voice matches that character very well. Colleen O'Shaughnessy has played the character for quite some time, so she knows Tails very well. And Idris Elba, again, very cool as the lovable, if slightly naive, Knuckles.
This is sad, Robotnik, even for you.
I actually thought that Knuckles has kind of got shades of Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. He's the muscles, but he's not exactly the brains of the operation.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
I'm gonna die surrounded by the biggest idiots in the galaxy.
Which, come to think of it, there's a lot of parallels between the Guardians and Sonic. If Knuckles is Drax, that would make Sonic Star-Lord, and Tails would be Mantis? James Marsden is back as a Tom, aka Donut Lord. However, it feels like in this one, in Sonic 3, he's only in a couple of scenes. He's in it at the start, and then there's a kind of a mid-movie action heist set piece that he's part of. But other than that, he's not really in the movie that much at all. Kirsten Ritter is here also, but she seems completely wasted in her role as like a government army agent general type person. It makes me think, I bet you there's scenes involving her that ended up on the cutting room floor because an actress like Kirsten Ritter, the caliber of Kirsten Ritter, like why would she be in this movie when she's only in a couple of scenes? So yeah, I would venture to bet that she's got a lot of scenes that ended up on the cutting room floor. The opening of this movie is a lot like the opening of X2, the second X-Men movie from, 20 odd years ago. There's also similar things throughout the movie that reminded me of X2 about, the good guys teaming up with the bad guys to face even badder guys, but then double-crossing inevitably happening as the movie progresses. There's also shades of Stranger Things, like with the character of Eleven, echoing the character of Shadow in certain ways. Again, I'm not going to say too much more on that for spoilers, but I definitely got Stranger Things 11 vibes when it came to Shadow and Shadow's backstory, shall we say. This is a kids' movie, and it's a good kids' movie. It's the third in the franchise, and it's probably just as good as the first two. I think it's safe to say, actually, the Sonic movies are probably the best video game to movie adaptations that there's been. As far as I know, there's only one other video game franchise that's had 3 or more movies without rebooting in its run, and that would be the Resident Evil. I think there ended up being 6, maybe 7 in the Mila Jovovich, universe timeline of those movies. But let's face it, of those 6 movies, there's maybe only 1 or 2 good ones, And I say that as a fan of those movies. Those movies are actually what got me into collecting Steelbooks, but that's a different story for a different video. But yeah, the Sonic movies, I reckon, probably the best video game adaptations. But let me know in the comments, what's been the best video game adaptation to movie? Not talking about TV shows, because obviously The Last of Us would probably win that, but I'm talking about movies, and specifically movie franchises. What video games have made the transition to movies, successfully? I think the Sonic ones are the best, but let me know what you think in the comments. The CGI in Sonic 3 is actually pretty decent. There wasn't anything obvious that stood out as being bad or wrong or anything like that. And given that, 3 or 4 of the main characters in this are, completely CGI, and they're interacting with the real world and with real humans. There wasn't a shot or a sequence or anything that stood out as being bad. So, kudos to the CGI team for that. There's 2 post-credit scenes in Sonic 3. Both are worth sticking around for. One about halfway through the credits and one at the very, very, very end. So yeah, both worth sticking around for. Something else that's worthwhile also is a wee sub to the channel. That would be fab. Thank you. Yeah, Sonic 3, even more than the first 2 movies, is very much the Jim Carrey show, which, might be hard to believe given, it's Jim Carrey and how much he was in Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. But as I said, you get double Jim Carrey in this movie. They've doubled down on the Jim Carrey-ness of Sonic in Sonic 3. If you liked Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 and you liked Jim Carrey's shtick in those movies, you will like Sonic 3. However, if you liked Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 but thought that Jim Carrey was borderline a little bit too much, you might not have as good a time with Sonic 3 because, as I said, they definitely double down on the Jim Carrey factor in Sonic 3. But I personally love Jim Carrey. I think he is a comedy genius and everything he does in this is hilarious. It's a kids' movie. It's based on a video game. It knows exactly what it is. It doesn't pretend to be anything else. It doesn't try to be anything else. It's not got the emotional heft of something from, say, Pixar, but it's equally good as something from DreamWorks or Illumination. I'm talking like Shrek, Minions, that sort of thing. It's a kids' movie that the kids enjoyed. I went to see it with our 2 youngest kids, 11-year-old and a 8-year-old, and they both really enjoyed it. It was the 11-year-old that chose this cup. So I'm going to give Sonic 3 7 out of 10. It's actually probably my least favourite of the 3, but that's not me saying it's bad. I really liked Sonic 1. I thought Sonic 2 was a good hit as well. In fact, now that I think about it, I would say it's probably on a par with Sonic 2. Sonic 1, I still think, is a better movie. In a weird way, it's a smaller movie. The thing I really liked about Sonic 1 was the relationship and the interplay between Sonic and Tom, between Sonic and James Marsden. There's less of that in this movie. In fact, there's almost none of that in this movie. So I did feel like that was missing a little bit of the kind of the human connection between, a human and Sonic. But that's a small factor. Even though I'm saying Sonic 3 is probably my least favourite, it's still a good movie. Interestingly, at the time of recording this, Sonic 3 is the highest rated of the Sonic movies on IMDb. That might change over the next week or two, given that the movie's just been released, so the score probably will take a little bit of a dip. But from what I've heard in other people's reviews, it seems to be everyone's favourite of the franchise. It's not my favourite of the franchise. As I said, the first one is my favourite, but, it's still a good movie, and it's a good kids' movie, which is crucial. And it's not too long. I don't know what the runtime is, but it must be 90 minutes or close to 90 minutes. It felt short, sharp, to the point. Kids' movie, not trying to be anything else. Yeah, enjoyable kids' movie that you can enjoy with your kids. I will say as well, though, one of the reasons that I probably like the Sonic franchise that little bit more is I've got a core memory of taking one of my kids to see the first Sonic movie, and afterwards said kid just running around the lobby and in the shopping centre pretending to be Sonic, like arms out at the back, thinking they're running super fast, saying the catchphrase, because he does have a catchphrase, gotta go fast. Yeah, that's a core memory for me with the kid. And it's something that's possibly influencing my enjoyment of the franchise. But I think that's okay. I mean, it's okay to enjoy a movie that little bit more because your kid that you see it with really enjoys it. I'm sure my parents saw many movies that they probably didn't think were that good, but they enjoyed watching me enjoying the movies. So that's probably an element to it. If your kids like Sonic and they like the Sonic movies, they'll like Sonic 3. If you want to hear my thoughts on the Knuckles TV show, I'll put that video here. And if you want to take a closer look at my Sonic Steelbook and physical media collection, I'll put that video here. If those videos aren't linked here, that means I've not recorded them yet, but I'll put some equally awesome videos in their place. That's us, folks. Thanks very much. I'll catch you in the next video.